All right, let's do it live on a Tuesday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Beau. He is something far more significant. He is the great Z, resplendent in an incredible jacket today. Look at the beauty of that thing.
You know what's incredible about this jacket? Not only is it
is
it highly fashionable, and I know that it has been many people are envious and are looking to cop this coat. It's warm.
Yep.
This is not only is it like
really?
a throwback looking.
I wouldn't have had that.
It is throwback wool. I mean, it is.
Oh, really?
It is heavy and warm. So it's great.
Really?
It's great
I would
for
not
the
have
season.
had that. I would have thought it was like a windbreaker.
No, it is.
No.
Thick wool. Yes, very nice. Wow. Very warm.
See, that's something I'd be able to have in a normal circumstances. I'd be able to be right next to you, and I could feel.
Tactile.
Not here, not in this circumstance.
As of right now, I will say it is the second warmest piece of clothing, normal-looking clothing, worn in, not like a parka, worn inside this studio, in this studio's history. Second warmest.
The second warmest non-parka worn in the studio.
You wore the other, as I do believe Joe Thomas did, and I think we all three almost died from heat exhaustion.
I was
from a bygone
era.
The
people that have been in the studio
from a
bygone era. I was going through all the people who have been in the studio, and I remember Sheldon Richardson in that fantastic Montclair vest, that orange vest that he had, and I was trying to think, did Cole ever show up in the shearling in studio? No. And I don't think he did. I don't remember him with the shearling in studio. I don't know if we were ever in this. You probably got to touch it on that trip to Denver, but I don't know if it was ever in our vicinity other than that. Was with the shearling. So I was trying to think, is there anything else? But yes, the old sand knit.
The old sand knit.
Hood, crew sweatshirt.
Neck. That's right.
That did not breathe. No, there was no breathing to that. What happens with that company without those being ordered?
I don't know.
I felt like those are the only ones being ordered in the country.
I think that's the only thing they've been producing. They also produced the original, and I've said this many times, the original first year of the new Charlotte Hornet uniforms that I so love. Yes. They produced the first year of those, the teals, and I have one, which is pretty sweet.
And it is really, for the folks out there, it's really that Charlotte jersey you have really is almost a canvasy feel. Like, it doesn't feel like any jersey
you would
wear.
It's not jersey fabric.
No.
At all.
I can't imagine how that thing would weigh down with sweat.
They obviously built some kind of elastic into it, but it is not jersey.
Sure.
It is not breathable, and nor is it jersey.
No.
And my Hornets uniform from literally, I want to say less than 5 years later, the white is traditional jersey where there are holes in it and all of that.
Yeah. Right, as it would be. Certainly. Yeah, as it should be. All right, let's get into the OBM Hot Topics. Ohio Business Machine, preferred copy provider of your Cleveland Browns. Have all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. It was so much going on yesterday into the show. We're going to spend a little bit more time magnifying everything that happened, where we go from here. And that does start with kind of putting into perspective where we go without Odell Beckham Jr. for the rest of this year. And I'm very curious to see how the NFL looks in the next couple of weeks in the lead up to the trade deadline. Not saying that we would be active at a receiver. I don't think we will be. And that's not pay attention to the scores. That's just the hunch. I think that we'll go with what we got. But based on a couple of things in terms of the league at large. Number one, with owners playing games without fans, they are obviously taking a hit financially. So if you have a player making a good amount of money on the end of, let's say, a rookie deal, or a veteran who's on a short tenure on a relatively high contract, do you dump those players? And we've seen that with Ngakoue. Quentin Williams reportedly available for the Jets. That would go with the first scenario that I painted out. The other part of it is the notion of the tank. There are generational quarterbacks, theoretically, in this draft. In Trevor Lawrence, for sure, and Justin Fields trending in that way as well. Do more and more teams try to make sure they're in line to get to the top of that, and even if you're not in for a quarterback, to just get better assets to improve your team? With all of that being said, is it possible that this trade deadline is more active than normal?
I believe the answer to that is yes. I think it will be more active than normal. I think you will see some teams leaning into the tank. I think you will see some teams NBA style dumping expiring contracts of people they don't intend of keeping to get an asset for them and also take some money off of their book, as you say, with, more of an expensive veteran, that would be coming there. The thing to me that's a bummer is the guy that I would want to get, because I've only wanted him to be with the Browns for basically the entirety of my tenure here, was Allen Robinson, because he's in the last year of his deal with the Bears, but they're still very much in the mix. They're still very much in, contention. So the question becomes, who is somebody that would fit this bill that's out there? The one name I've heard from a receiver position is Marvin Jones. There have been some rumors of multiple teams having interest in Marvin Jones and the Browns being amongst them. I could potentially see that. I would feel like you're looking for somebody who brings more of a vertical element to your passing game. And Marvin Jones, he's averaging 12 yards a catch this year, 19 for 226 and a touchdown. I don't think that he necessarily brings that. He brings another reliable, very good route runner. And you could say, look, we're going to play this. We still got vertical last week without Odell Beckham Jr. against the Bengals multiple times with Donovan Peoples-Jones, Hollywood Higgins, etc. And maybe Donovan Peoples-Jones is a guy that emerges as this season goes on, or Kaderil Hodge. So I want to go back just real quickly, because there's been a lot of conversation, I think, about a point that I made at the beginning of the show yesterday, and one that I will now try to defend, because it's not black and white. It is not just a clearly defined thing. It can be both true that the Browns are not a better team without Odell Beckham Jr., and Baker Mayfield can operate as a more efficient quarterback without Odell Beckham Jr. on the field. And a lot of people are talking about Dan Orlovsky and what he said on ESPN yesterday about it. And guess what? I've talked directly to Dan Orlovsky, so I can share with you what he thinks from a nuanced perspective as somebody who also played in Detroit with Matt Stafford and with Calvin Johnson. And he said it's not so simple to say that Baker is better off without Odell. Baker Mayfield and a lot of quarterbacks with those kind of elite number one receivers will take that extra beat in their mind to assess, what's this coverage that I'm reading? What does that mean for Odell? Before, what's this coverage meaning? What am I doing with the football? Now, that is something that can be evolved over time, and it is quite clear that many quarterbacks in the league, and I'm pretty sure if you ask Matt Ryan how his career would have gone if they just took Julio Jones off the field and said, well, you're just going to read the defense. It's just not that simple. So it is nuanced. Odell Beckham Jr., in addition to what he does as a receiver, in addition to the things he showed you in the game against Dallas, provides pre-snap information oftentimes that you will not get without having an Odell Beckham Jr. He will also provide better looks, too high safety looks, better looks for your running game that not having Odell Beckham Jr. might not provide. So there are benefits to him, and then there is, and again, granted, it's a small sample size of, a second half of a 2018 season, and then, this one game here. So it is a small sample size that Baker, without the perhaps added mental burden of worrying and being concerned with getting the ball to a number one receiver, is somebody that, he does play more efficiently, but we'll see how that bears out over the course of an entire season. I think that right now we know Baker played right now the best 3 quarters of the season. Does that also mean Baker's better without Odell Beckham, Austin Hooper, and Nick Chubb on the field? No, I don't believe that it does. I think we're a better football team with our most talented players on it. Now it's going to be for Baker to put 2 of these good games in a row and move forward in his evolution as a quarterback, because guess what? Odell can't be here. But I just think on some level the notion of taking Odell Beckham Jr. off of the field makes the Browns a better offense is ludicrous. Ludicrous.
I think you summed that up very well. I think the only thing that I would add to it is that this is of no fault of Odell Beckham Jr. None. Zero. None. It has nothing to do with him.
And Orlovsky said that too.
What it has to do with Yes, but I think that's getting lost. Like, that's another part. The 2 points you made are the two major points. The third point is that this is of no fault of Odell Beckham Jr. It is very understandable for a young quarterback, as Orlovsky said and as you've pointed out, to feel I got to give him a chance to make plays. I know how special he is. I got to give him a chance to make plays. And when that is taken away, then you just go back to playing the position without burden's the wrong word. Obligation is probably a better word. There is probably a natural subconscious obligation when you play that position and you have a player like that to feed them.
And
it happens all the time in the league. It definitely does. That does not mean that it is not better to have more talented players. And if you're looking for the direct correlation of that, understand that other defensive coordinators' jobs have just gotten easier by Odell Beckham Jr. not being on this team because they have to game plan for him. That's fact. And now he's out of the mix in that sense.
And what Dan shared with me, which I thought was a good insight, is that this is a phenomenon that doesn't extend just to the quarterback subconsciously, also the play caller subconsciously. And so you as a play caller, he said, we have this in Detroit all the time. They want to, why wouldn't you? The guy is a superstar. You want to get the ball to Megatron, just like you want to get the ball to Odell Beckham Jr. And it, in some ways, can lead to more pure efficiency because now you're just thinking about here are their tendencies. These are the coverages that they play in this particular situation based on what we know. Let's call the best play for that. And then Baker's going to be, as I know that was said on this air a long time ago, Baker's at his best when he's like Steve Nash. Just distribute the football. Just distribute the football. Playing point guard, getting it out of his hands, distributing the football. Your point about defensive coordinators and the approach to our team, we're going to have to consistently prove now because for all the people said, well, what this, that. Open the game against Cincinnati with a double move bomb touchdown. Bomb touchdown to open the game from Jarvis on a great play design, but he was the one who made the great route and got wide open against Dallas, not to mention all the other things he did in Dallas. The slant in the goal line area against Dallas, which his release is just simply spectacular. The reverse where he won the game for the Cleveland Browns on his own, spectacular. You don't have that anymore. And so we're going to have to work harder to maintain our efficiency because everybody's looking at, oh, well, here's his completion percentage when throwing to Odell, and here's his this, that. Guess what?
Yeah.
Defenses know about Odell Beckham. He's getting more coverage. But you're still going to want to get him opportunities because the things that he can do are special. Some of his catches that he made this year were ridiculous. Ridiculous. The one going across, I want to say against the Colts, was an absurd catch with guys draped all over him. He played his heart out for this team, for this organization, worked his butt off. He's been nothing but an exemplary teammate. He's been nothing but great in this building to us and to everybody around that I know has ever interacted with him in this building. And so I just think that the besmirching of him right now is ridiculous. Guess what? Great. We are all very happy Baker went 21 for 21 after that 0 for 5 start because we needed it to get that win. We're not perhaps 4-2 going into that game without Odell Beckham. And to think that we would be, I think, is a very convenient rewriting of history.
Yes. Well said. The closest thing I can think of to and this is an analogy, you think about, Dan talked about the play callers. In 2015, Ohio State had probably the most talented team it's ever had in its history, its program. They never clicked offensively. And Urban coached that year with tremendous obligation. They had Michael Thomas and Ezekiel Elliott. He had Braxton Miller, who was a two-time Big Ten Player of the Year quarterback, moved him to receiver. There was obligation and kept him from playing quarterback other places in the country. He had Cardale Jones and J.T. Barrett. He had all this stuff. And he coached the game with obligation to get all of these guys their touches. That is a veteran coach who'd won everything. Of course it would be natural for coaches to say, let's dial some up. We've asked Coach this directly about how calling plays for guys. Now some of that goes away. Your ceiling is highest with Odell Beckham Jr. That is without argument. It's without argument. Where do they go from here? What does it look like going forward? How do they replace him? What do we do differently offensively? Those will be questions that we'll start to answer this week, and then you got a bye week, so you'll have a little bit of time with it. The game last night. This is my takeaway from it. I'm curious what you think. Because I know that what the Bears are. The Bears are no good. The Bears were the worst 5-1 team in football before. They're the worst 5-2 team after. what are the Rams? How close are the Rams to being a contender in the NFC? They have, in watching last night, they have game breakers, game wreckers on defense in Ramsey and Donald, who can change. I don't know if they have a great defense, but they have two guys who can change a game at any moment and make big-time plays. They can run it with either back. They've got good receivers. And Goff, when he's playing from ahead, is very, very good. Are the Rams, how close are they to being real contenders?
I think they can beat anybody, honestly. I really do. I think their defense is that good because it's not just Donald. Quinn's getting to the quarterback. I think they're going to end up getting a very talented Terrell Lewis involved in that pass rush, and we saw his big play on that 4th and 1 on the edge. Their defense just seems to fly around. They are very, very talented. Terrell Burgess was a big loss for them. That was a kid, remember in the draft that we liked coming out of Utah, who could play both safety positions?
I remember him.
And that was a pretty ugly injury that he suffered. But I think they can play with anybody. Ramsey can take out anybody from the game. And people are making such a big deal about that play where Mooney appeared to be open on that, I think it was 3rd and 9 right near the goal line. Ramsey was playing that wisely. He knew they were blitzing. They brought the house, and he jumped the slant. It was a slant and go, which would require the ball to be thrown before the slant and go even began, and somehow it to end up, and he was right. They couldn't complete that. But their defense, I think, is very good. McVay is a great coach. Their biggest limiting factor, two things they have that are limiting factors. Number one is that their offensive line does not seem to be great. It seemed like Goff was under duress a lot. Number two,
good defense.
While it is a very good defense in Chicago. While they can run it, it seems like they know that they need to incorporate their receivers quite a bit in the running. I mean, you don't see that many jet sweeps in an average game in the NFL. Only they do it. Goff is clearly more effective off play action because neither Woods nor Kupp is a scare you receiver. They're not big. They're very good route runners.
Right.
But you can't just throw them up jump balls, and they're not taking the top off defense. That offense, if you remember, was at its best when it had Brandon Cooks, who could just go. And that all of a sudden creates a lot of room for you in the intermediate routes. They are still very good, though, and because of the greatness of their greats, I think they can beat anybody. Because in the NFC, to me, it's pretty wide open. Seattle's flaw was exposed again, and it's just so hard, regardless of how great Russ is, and he is great, to have to score
always
40 a game. Like, that's hard to do no matter how good you are. That's difficult to do.
Yeah.
And it is more likely that their offense runs into a defense that is better than, because frankly, their defense has made even not great offenses look pretty good.
I think you're to the point now in the NFC where right now, you're doing Super Bowl right now.
Tampa.
I think it might be Tampa Bay.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's Tampa Bay. Their defense, what they're getting out of Winfield, the rookie out of Minnesota, their secondary, their defensive front seven is beastly. Their linebackers fly. And now all of a sudden Brady's playing at a level the last 5 games as good as anybody in football. I mean, right now, they're it. And some of that's because they house the Packers, because the Packers have a nice track record as well. But both the Packers and the Bucs are better defensively than the Seahawks, who really need to make a move, I think, honestly, in their defense.
It's the Seahawks. It's the Bucs. It's the Bays, Tampa, Green. I still think that, the Seahawks are in the mix because Russ is so good.
For sure.
The Rams and the 49ers, because of the level of their coaching, I feel like still can beat anybody. Arizona, I think, will still have a difficult time getting deep, even though they are very good because Kyler's special. But that really, to me, and then there's the Saints, who just have not lived up to what you expected.
Well,
and again, it seems like there are issues in-house that are more significant than we would have ever expected from a Sean Payton, Drew Brees-led team.
You just never would have thought this Mike Thomas stuff would be going on down there.
No, and where does that?
It's just very strange.
It's
very
quite
curious
strange
to know what's really going on.
By the way, misspoke. Quinn's now on the Bears, used to play for the Rams. Leonard Floyd, Zachary Boley pointed out correct. Floyd was the one who had a couple nice plays for the Rams in that pass rush.
Yeah, Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. They really got the blues right on those uniforms. The blue is beautiful.
I'll tell you what.
Beautiful.
Their uniforms as a whole have grown on me a ton seeing them in action. Even the bone, which is still my least favorite.
The bone looks ridiculous, but yeah.
But they've all grown on me. And that's one. And by the way, last night, the 100% of the public theory ended up being right. It's not always right.
Correct.
But
it was. Good job.
It was on that one.
Yep.
Their uniforms have grown on me. The Falcons' uniforms have grown on me, with the exception of the fading one, which we knew was horrific.
God,
and this was the first time they wore it, right? I think this was the first time they wore it.
And it was, and the Lions were in the ridiculous all silver. That was just a clown show game.
Oh, it looked like we were watching. Oh God, why can't I think of the movie right now? Al Pacino.
Any Given Sunday.
And yes, it was Any Given Sunday uniforms. Thank you for being right there, Reddy.
Yep.
These inches define our lives.
Jeez. Just dreadful looking. Dreadful.
So bad.
Yeah, the Rams, the jumping off point for both the Rams and the Falcons, the margin for error was so large because their color schemes are so great. It's hard to screw those up. Like you really, even if you get it mostly right, you're still going to have a good-looking uniform. Even if you get it really wrong, you're still going to have a good-looking uniform because their colors and their logos and everything are so cool. Lots to get to on this program today, including some more takeaways from the offense and the defense. Pat Kerr, we're going to join us in the second hour. We'll do better or worse coming up at 2 o'clock as well. Lots to get. Oh, a little Fact or Fiction I see with Gibby. 2 appearances from the Gibby in the show today. Pure joy. Oh, lots to look forward to, kids. Off and running. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, let's talk about your mattress. It may be to blame for your bad night's sleep, your back pain, your discomfort. You've gone to traditional stores. You've seen those outrageous prices. Well, at Northeast Factory Direct, they've gotten rid of all of those extras. You get that same high-quality mattress for a fraction of the cost. Alex, partner with the manufacturer here in the United States, makes mattresses exclusively for Northeast. He buys these mattresses by the truckload, passes those savings on to you. Pillow top, memory foam, gel foam, all the sizes. Got a ton of mattresses in stock. They're ready to deliver them right now. You can get them right away. 0% financing is available. West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, or Freeway Drive in Macedonia. It is oh so easy to shop online at northeastfactorydirect.com. Yesterday, spent a lot of time and obviously talking about Baker and the way and just a sensational performance out of your quarterback. In terms of other impressions from this game yesterday, on Sunday rather, the win against the Bengals. Obviously, the two rookies, and when you sliced your game ball in half, you tackled a little of this, Z, but they were both sensational. Donovan Peoples-Jones and, of course, Harrison Bryant.
They were, and they're going to need to be. I mean, Harrison Bryant is a guy that really has been tremendous. He's outperforming what you would have expected from a rookie in terms of his blocking. We knew about his receiving skills coming out of college, and he has been, when you talk about reliable targets, you talk about efficiency, he's been that guy for Baker Mayfield, and that's a chemistry that we saw. That was one of the few things that if you were out here in Berea or you're watching Browns live, the training camp editions from Berea, or listening to Browns Daily out in Berea during training camp, that became really apparent that this kid was the real deal. 3 receiving touchdowns, second on the team. Now, the leading receiving touchdown getter on the team is Kareem Hunt with 4, which probably not a lot of people would have, that it would be a running back. But he's got 3. He's caught 12 of his 18 targets, 126 yards, and the 3 touchdowns. As I said, a plus blocker, a heady kid. He's been excellent.
Yes, he has been excellent and will continue to be. And it's interesting when we were talking about the Odell Beckham Jr. conversation of not only without Odell, without Hooper and Chubb. Without all of those. And Teller, frankly, you want to get to the line. You're talking about 4, not only 4 starters, but 4 superstar players. And Teller was on his way of being a first-team All-Pro right guard. So you're without all of that in the game against the Bengals. And now people are going to have to step up. And we talk about Harrison Bryant. You talk about Donovan Peoples-Jones getting into that receiver mix. We've been having just, 4 active receivers every single week. I'll be interested to see what Coach does with that going forward. Be interested to see if there are any additions or if there are players who are signed or brought into the practice squad to try to amp up that a little bit there. And the other thing that is out there, and it won't be this week, but Nick Chubb will come back to this team maybe after the bye.
Yeah,
could be.
That's the
Feels
hope.
like that's very realistic that it could be. Coach saying yesterday that he was optimistic that he would be or that he wouldn't be surprised if he was ahead of schedule. So this last one here to get through Raiders, I think it's hard to know about Hoop, where he could be after an appendectomy. I'm not sure what to expect there. We'll know more as the week goes along. Teller as well. But then you get a bye, and then you can reset and get healthy for the second half of the season.
Right, and that's what, as I said, is so important. You're going to get Nick Chubb back there. You mentioned Donovan Peoples-Jones earlier, and all the guys that really have stepped up. Think about how many people have stepped up on our offense. Hubbard started in wins at right tackle and at right guard. You're talking about Kaderil Hodge early in the season. Higgins jumps in. Donovan Peoples-Jones jumps in. Dearness Johnson had played a huge role in the win over the Dallas Cowboys. You've got so many people who have really just stepped in, and it's happened time and time again. And I think that's really impressive. This is the thing that jumps out to me. Here are the highest graded run blockers. Go ahead.
Real quick, before you get into the DPJ, it's one of the biggest differences from last year to this year.
Oh, yeah.
These are guys who were inactive, who weren't participating, but when called upon, were ready. There was still currency in them. They were still bought in to what was being done last year. And 2 of the guys you just mentioned, Higg and Njoku, off the reservation. When it got bad, it was done. It was done. And Stefan, that didn't happen. That's not happening this year. I just, as you were saying that, I was thinking, gosh, these are guys who were, you didn't know if they'd be with the organization again a year ago.
They wouldn't have been. If the changes did not happen, they would not have been with the organization. And clearly we are a better organization and a more productive football team for it. And what happened last year, is terrible. And Hollywood Higgins, to be healthy and active, even though he knew the coaches liked him, he knew his quarterback liked him, that had to hurt. And instead he stayed ready. And now that he's here, the Browns were the only team in the NFL that didn't have anybody with a 100-yard receiving game through the first 6 weeks of the season. Because only 3 teams didn't have a receiver, but they had tight ends who had done it. Now he has done it for the Cleveland Browns. But Donovan Peoples-Jones, this to me is an unbelievable stat. The top run blockers, as graded by Pro Football Focus on the Cleveland Browns team through 7 games this season. Number 1, Wyatt Teller. Number 3, Jack Conklin. Number 4, Joel Bitonio. Number 5, J.C. Tretter. Number 2, Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And I believe he's doing all the little things that are being asked of him. He finally got an opportunity. The fact that his first 2 receptions from Baker Mayfield in his NFL career came on that final drive is it's unbelievable. And I think he's going to earn more. And what I hope is this unlocks in him. Just play fast. You can do it. Just play fast. I don't think he's necessarily thinking. I think he hasn't fully adjusted yet to the speed of the NFL. But you started to see it on that last. You go back. Everybody who gets to watch the tape or watches on, the all 22s, or you're watching any of the highlights, because people are showing highlights of that final drive on all, NFL Network, ESPN, etc. Watch the move Donovan Peoples-Jones puts on running that dig, the backside dig that gets him open when Baker gets out of the blitz. Baker getting out of the blitz was the huge part, but the move DPJ puts on to cross the face of the DB and then get himself wide open is worth checking out. It's tremendous.
Yeah. It's been fun. It's fun, and there's an incredible buy-in with this group, and that starts with the coach and a lot of bright spots in this offense, and it's only going to get better as you start to get healthier and healthier. Are you a sports fan looking for a part-time weekend job? Get into the action at First Energy Stadium, home of your Cleveland Browns. Wes is now hiring for part-time event staff and security. Apply online at weshiring.com. We'll play a little fact or fiction with Gibbe up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. If you're injured at work, call the Workers' Compensation Lawyers at 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk and Elk, a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. A double dose of Gibby. What a treat.
I think you get me like 3
Better
straight
or worser?
segments here, by the way.
It's beautiful. That's true. It's beautiful. Gibby. How you doing, buddy, for a little Fact or Fiction?
Hey, we're rocking and rolling. We're getting through things, man.
We are, brother.
We're turning the attention to the Raiders. Got an eye on next week. Got some big things planned for the bye week. And
there you go.
Just a lot of working ahead on things and trying to manage and get through stuff. So, I
like it. You're doing big P things.
We're working through things. It's all right. There you go.
Now you're on.
Huge.
You're on now.
There you go.
Yo.
Boy,
it's
light.
Like yesterday, I remember my
just a light right there.
Right,
just go like this.
It on
it's on, or it's right here on the desk. Boy, would that be something?
Yeah, but like the mic, it would say on because my mic was on. If you got that, it would say my mic was on.
No.
If there was an on-off light.
Tell him.
As long as one mic is on in the room, it says on.
You know what I'm talking about.
Are you correct about
the
that?
Three buttons.
You're talking.
They say on,
I believe,
off, and cough, and each mic. The lights are linked for each microphone.
Each mic, yeah. It was fun. Gibby did try to take that conversation by using the overwhelming studio on-air light.
Yeah,
studio light.
One light, one on. They're all on. But so that was a nice job of the rapscallion to try to steal that argument.
Total rapscallion move.
With that. But he would also be aware of two different lights, one that would have the studio on and one would have the individual mics on.
That's right.
Because he has been in many studios as a large P.
That's right. Which he's choosing to conveniently forget right
now.
He's got studio amnesia.
Totally.
He tried. It's not a lie if you believe it.
First diagnosed case in the country, studio amnesia.
So we're working on a few things here today, and I'm like,
beautiful.
Instead of just going around the league on topics, let's turn it into something a little fun. And then I had it all well spaced out and higher, lower at 2:30. Yeah. And our good friend Pat Kerwin got back to me, who I've been trying to get on for a couple of weeks now, and he goes, "Hey, how does 2:30 work?" And I said, "Whatever time you want to go, I will make it all work." So I apologize to the audience. You get a lot of me today.
Well, and you get smarter with Pat Kerwin at 2:30, so that's a win.
Yes. Yeah, that's always a win. Let's do a little Fact or Fiction. Jordan, hit the magical soundbite.
Fact or Fiction.
There we go. Fact or Fiction number 1 as we go around the league. Tampa Bay is the best team in the NFC. Fact or Fiction. Zegura, we'll start with you.
Fact. They are the best. They've got the most talent, both sides of the ball. Tom Brady is still, this just in. Tom Brady, pretty good at quarterback. Still.
It's wild.
I like their defensive playmakers. Beau talked about earlier, all 3 levels. They've got great playmakers defensively. I think they are the most complete football team, and I don't think we've still seen them. Godwin's going to miss another game with a broken finger. We still haven't seen them at 100%. And I think that this trend where they're boat racing pretty good teams the last 2 weeks is likely to continue.
Beau?
It's fact. It's fact, and it's interesting. They're doing it kind of with the one hand tied behind their back. No Heath Evans really not involved in the offense at this point. That hasn't happened. You mentioned Godwin going to miss another game. He's missed some already. They're getting Antonio Brown as COVID insurance. And the bet you were making, if you were somebody who was betting on the Bucs not being good this year, you were betting on Brady not still being Brady, which is reasonable. He's 43. How long can he do it? Well, at least one more year, it looks.
Next.
Fact or Fiction.
All right, speaking of Tom Brady, a little fact or fiction here. Ryan Tannehill is more of an NFL MVP candidate than Tom Brady through 7 weeks. Beau, we'll start with you.
Fiction, he's not more of an MVP candidate. He would be, in his own conference, I think he would definitely be behind Mahomes. I'm trying to think who else I'm missing out there. Mahomes would certainly be ahead of him. He's playing so great, but I think the Derrick Henry part of it takes a little out of it, whereas Brady is going to get a ton of attention going forward for the level of play. They're pretty close. I mean, they're both on a short list of 5 or 6. I just would think Brady right now would be a little ahead of Tannehill, especially coming off of the loss to Pittsburgh.
It is, and as good as Tannehill has been, there's going to be a huge segment of the population that is going to say, well, they've got Derrick Henry, as Beau pointed out. Derrick Henry has to be a factor in this discussion as it relates to Tannehill. Even though I believe Tannehill, independently in a bubble in isolation, has been that good.
He's been great.
But Tom Brady, you could argue Tannehill too, changed the fortunes of the Tennessee franchise because Mariota had a ceiling in which he was able to bring that football team. I think Tom Brady just going down there changing it, he's got to be in those two. If those are the two, it's got to be Tom Brady. So I believe that means fiction. I'm not sure what the original question was, but fiction.
Fiction. Yeah.
What are you shaking your head at? That was
it's
good
simple.
analysis.
It's fact or fiction. There's no other way to spin that. It's fact or fiction.
So you just want no analysis for the people?
No. I think you were trying to figure out a way to spin that.
No, I wanted it to be fact or fiction. I was just talking through why.
I'm just making sure. I'm making sure you're in your spot. You were deliberate there.
We're talking for 2 hours today, Gibbon. Not sure if you noticed that happens Monday through Friday every week.
1 to 3 p.m. I'm well versed in this. By the way, Tannehill, 6 games this year, 68.5% completion percentage, 1,590 yards. Tom Brady, 7 games, 65.7% completions, 1,900 yards, 18 touchdowns. Quite comparable.
They're both good. They're both good.
They are. All right. What do you got? What were you going to say?
I was going to say, the fact that with Brady there, all of a sudden Ronald Jones is doing things that nobody thought possible, I think speaks so much to Brady, the respect he gets from defenses, his ability and freedom that he has to change plays at the line when they have advantageous run looks, and Jones taking advantage of it. But, I mean, the notion that Ronald Jones at any point this season or perhaps at any point in his career would run for 100 yards in 3 straight games, maybe even just have 3 100-yard rushing games the rest of his career, probably seemed a little bit absurd, and it's not now because of Tom Brady.
Next.
Fact or fiction?
Le'Veon Bell making his debut with Kansas City over the weekend. Le'Veon Bell will hurt the Chiefs' repeat chances more than he will help. Fact or fiction? Zegura, we'll start with you.
I'll say fiction. I think he's an excellent. The question was, will he hurt them more than help? Yeah, fiction. I think he's going to be a good piece of puzzle. He looked pretty good running the football. It'll help them keep Clyde Edwards-Helaire fresh. It will also mean that if an injury happens to CEH, Clyde the Glide, they're not really at a total loss. I think the drop-off to Darrell Williams would have been significant compared to that of Le'Veon Bell. I think he will help Andy Reid in some passing game concepts. And so I think he is a positive addition for that team.
Bishop?
Fiction without repeating everything. Fiction. They got great culture. They got a great quarterback. If he were a problem, he'd be done. So I see no problem there. It's good insurance.
Next.
Fact or fiction?
A lot of Tampa Bay here, but Tampa Bay kind of the hot button the way they're playing right now. Dez Bryant will be a better addition for the Ravens than Antonio Brown will be to the Buccaneers. Fact or fiction? Beau, we'll start with you.
Fiction. I mean, we've seen Antonio Brown play at a high level more recently. I mean, he was really good for the Patriots last year before being suspended. He was really good. He's playing with a quarterback who knows exactly where he needs to be and wants him on the team. It's just been longer for Dez. I mean, it's a long time for him being out of the game, and it's an offense that, I mean, they're going to ask him to do stuff he hasn't done before. Not saying that he can't, but it's just different ask. It's just a much more apples-to-apples equation with Antonio Brown.
Zegura.
It's fiction. Antonio Brown, I think, is still closer to being good. We saw it last year, even in that brief stint with the Patriots. And guess what? He's got Tom Brady throwing him the football. Tom Brady, he's only there because Tom Brady wants him to be there. So I think he will be set up for success. And again, the Ravens aren't a throwing football team, and we don't know what Dez has left in the tank.
Yeah, well, and we'll find out if the league has anything to say about Antonio Brown further penalizing him, whatever the case might be there.
Is there a part of you that thinks that if they were going to do something, once it came out that he was signing, wouldn't they have just stepped in and been like...
Yeah, I think they would have done it.
There at least would have been an internal conversation.
He's been out a year.
Like, you don't want to do that.
He's been out a year. Like, I would think that if they were going to do more, they would have.
Right.
Next.
Fact or fiction?
Next to Adam Gase in New York, the hottest seat in the NFL right now on the coaching side of things belongs to the Bears, Matt Nagy. I believe this is Zegura. Zegura, you're up.
Nagy, or who's the other coach?
No, next to Adam Gase. The hottest coaching seat in the NFL right now is Matt Nagy.
Fiction. I think Doug Marrone's seat might be hotter in Jacksonville. I mean, they still are 5-2. Or it wasn't a pretty performance, and he's getting ripped to shreds everywhere. But I'll tell you, I don't know if you guys heard Uncle Jera on the radio. I think Mike McCarthy might be on the hot seat. He's yelling at radio hosts. He's attacking them. But then the final quote that I had a tough time was don't upset an old man with little money. He's got a lot of money.
Unless there's something I'm unaware of.
Maybe it's supposed to be with a little money, being like a metaphor a little, but the direct quote that was quoted on Twitter was with little money.
Bishop.
Yeah. I don't believe he qualifies for that statement.
No, he doesn't. I've been on that bus.
The only thing with Nagy would be is if the Bears like the GM more than him and one of them has to go. Because the GM drafted Trubisky. It seemed like Nagy wanted Foles because he'd had him in several stops beforehand. So Foles was really Nagy's call at that point. So, like, if there's a separation, would that one make sense? I mean, like, you think about how many guys are on. Is Vic Fangio, is he safe in Denver with the way they're playing? In terms of are they heading in the right direction with him? You mentioned Doug Marrone in Jacksonville obviously makes a lot of sense. There's other coaches where you wonder if just the message has gotten stale. Like, I mean, what's happened in Minnesota this year is stunning. I mean, you think about Zim certainly there. Obviously, Gase is the lead dog in terms of that. And it's interesting coming out of Cincinnati. A lot of are we sure this is the guy? Like, we've got our quarterback. This is the guy to nurture him going forward? So there's some that are out there.
One final one, guys.
Fact or fiction?
Miami will regret not taking Justin Herbert. Beau, the floor is yours.
Do you realize that we haven't seen Tua play yet? So I'm hesitant to just to do this until I see Tua play. But I will also acknowledge, as I have many times, that I was dead wrong on Herbert. I would not have had that he's the number one third down passer in all of the NFL. In all of the NFL, I would not have had that. And so it's heading towards fact, but I would rather hedge until I see Tua play. Because it's possible they're both good.
It is possible they're both good. I'm just going to say, based on what I understand of both of their skill sets, and now I've seen Herbert's transition to the NFL, I would want Herbert, A, size, B, athleticism. Yeah. And not to say that Tua isn't necessarily a good athlete, because he is, but Herbert's ability to run, I think, is something that I didn't count on. His arm strength. Herbert looks to me like what I think the evolution of the quarterback position in the NFL is. It's bigger guys who can run and can throw it down the field, which would be a Herbert, it would be an Allen, or it's the guys that can just crush you who can run that aren't necessarily as big, but Kyler and Russ, I mean, are putting on shows. The days of, and Tom Brady's doing it too, you can still be an effective traditional pocket passer, and I didn't watch enough Tua, so tell me if I'm wrong. But my sense is that Tua is more of a pocket passer than he is Kyler.
For sure. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's correct. Yeah. Look. If you're smart, you can thrive in this. I saw. I think it was Baldinger who pointed this out. There's no such thing as a 2-minute drill. It's like a 50-second drill now. Look at how many quarterbacks went. I mean, we did it. Stafford did it. Kyler did it. I mean, Russ did it. You can go the whole length of the field in 50 seconds now without timeouts. Like
we did it.
I said us. First one I said.
I said we did it.
I did say that, yeah.
But he's different than those guys, too.
Right, but there's a lot of ways to do it. But, I mean, the offense right now is just coming so easy in the league. If you live and breathe football, sometimes keeping your priorities straight can be a challenge. Unfortunately, the same can be true when you gamble. If you find your gambling has affected other parts of your life, we can help. Get tips on responsible gambling at keepitfunohio.com. It is Halloween week, gentlemen. Your favorite Halloween candy.
Really went outside the box here on this thinking. It's Halloween week. I like candy.
I do too. I am.
Are you guys chocolate or the candy guys?
I'm not much of a candy guy. I will say my favorite candy is I am of the belief that a candy corn is good. I'm not anti-candy corn. However, I'm not a fan of the candy pumpkin. It's only the corns that I like. I don't know if it's the shape. I don't know what's going on there.
I think they all stink. But go ahead.
I would probably say either from a mini candy bar size, Snickers, Butterfinger, or little Reese's Pieces. Not the Reese's Pieces peanut butter cups. I'm a big Reese's Pieces fan.
Yes, the Pieces are greater than the cups.
Correct. That's right.
Yep.
The problem with the cups is you only get like 2 or 3. Like if you get the cups, like the Reese's Pieces, there's more. There's more there. It feels more.
I bet the weight is the same.
The thinness of the candy shell on the is just it's spectacular.
And the peanut butter, because M&M tries to do like a peanut butter M&M, and it's not this. It's not. They don't have it. It's not. They have a higher quality peanut butter, and the candy shell is both superior. The Snickers is an incredibly versatile. A frozen Snickers, mini frozen Snickers, is such an incredible win. I like a Kit Kat from time to time. I like a Twix from time to time. On the candy bar rotation there. I have no use for any of the Milky Way, Three Musketeers, Mars bar family. That soft, no nut
nougat.
No, out. I don't even know if they even have nougat. Like, it's just foam. I don't understand it. I don't understand the point of a Three Musketeers or Milky Way or any of those.
That's not for me. At least Milky Way gives you caramel, right? Some caramel in there.
Yeah, but what is the foam
caramel?
stuff?
It's both. You
got to have a crisp.
Right, I gave you both.
Crisp or crunch?
I think Butterfinger's a tremendous candy. I don't know what exactly.
Only negative there is the only negative there is just the fact that it's going to be in your tooth for a while.
Yeah, gotta be ready to floss.
Yeah, you got to be ready, and you have to have a toothpick. Gibby?
Skittles, gummy bears, little sour patch kids.
You're candy. Yeah,
I'm a candy guy.
Nerds. Sweet tarts, all that,
like a chewy spree.
Did you love Pop Rocks back in the day?
Of course. What am I hard at Pop Rocks? Of course I love Pop. Who didn't? What an incredible, sensation!
Not a good idea.
Don't do that, Bootsy. Not a good idea.
That's right up Bootsy's alley.
Oh, jeez.
Right in the middle of the island of your kitchen. Kabloom.
I know we're up against it. I'll just tell you this: the dude shows up this morning. He's home today. He shows up this morning with a 2-foot caricature of a little human. He proceeds to knock on the door, walk in here. Dad, look, it's Flat Paxton. I made you a Flat Paxton. So there's like a 2-foot facsimile of him, a Flat Paxton, like a Howard Stern has Flat Ronnie. So I've got a Flat Paxton here in the office. I'll show you on the stream at the break, but just they brought up Bootsy and Pop Rocks made me think of it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So I got a Flat Paxton. So that way I'm always with him. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
It's great.
We will. It's fantastic.
It's tremendous
a little
likeness.
higher or lower. Yeah, better or worse. Sweet spot coming up at the top of the hour. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau Bishop here for my great friends at Raising Cane's, and on game day, make the choice to go for the win with Raising Cane's chicken fingers. Stack your roster with delicious, hand-battered, cooked-to-order chicken fingers and that cane sauce so delicious. Huddle up with crispy, crinkle-cut fries, coleslaw, and buttery Texas toast. Top it all off with that freshly made tea. Sweet tea is very, very good. The lemonade as well. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, proud sponsors of the Ohio High School Association and Ohio State Athletics. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love. Time for a little higher or lower or just right. Brought to you by Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine, the nation's largest medical school, preparing future generations of physicians, pharmacists, and dentists. And we are joined now by Brown Senior Staff Writer Andrew Gribble, joining in on the fifth third money line. And Gibby, higher, lower, better, worse, sweet spot, just right.
Worse, sweet spot.
Gibby.
All right, first and foremost, I do have to shout out Gribbs because I literally changed and flipped his entire world upside down because he and I always confirm because he's got a lot going on behind the scenes, especially on the digital side of things. And like at 12:51, I'm like, hey, how do you mind changing today for 30 minutes? Like moving your entire day around. So, Gribbs, I do appreciate you doing that.
It was my pleasure. Yes, I appreciated getting bumped. It was perfect.
All right, let's do a little higher or lower. And this week, compliments of our good friend Pete Prisco, little CBSSports.com.
Ooh.
And his version of higher or lower. At number 1, the Pittsburgh Steelers are ranked numero uno. Should they be lower, or are they just right? Zegura, we will start with you this week.
I've been saying it. I've been kind of beating this drum, unfortunately. I hate doing it, but, they're good. Where's the flaw with this team? Where is the weakness? They can throw it if they need to throw it. They can run it if they need to run it. We know how good their defense is. But I still subscribe to the theory that until they beat the Chiefs are still the team to beat, despite the fact that they did lose to the Las Vegas Raiders, who just got boat raced by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, looking pretty good. The Taco Bell Bucks. But right now, I think the Steelers, if you're saying neutral field, I do think that they win. I think they're the best team, most complete team, but I still would keep Kansas City at number 1, champion's prerogative.
Bishop.
Yeah, I think what I always try to do with this is where are you right now, and right now they're the best. If they played on a neutral field against Kansas City, I would probably take Kansas City just because of the magic of Mahomes and just the belief that you have in him. But right now they're the best. And we were talking off air. I don't know what you like. Find a flaw. What do you say? I don't know. Is the back end good enough? And as he was saying in the break, well, they always get home.
Right.
So there's you don't even have to be, and they're really good back there. They're game wreckers back there. They're guys who make big game-changing plays, but there really is nothing they can't do. So, yeah, I think right now, unfortunately, they are number 1.
Gribble.
I'm putting them lower, and I think it's echoing what Nathan just said. I think that the Chiefs are better. I think that you look at the Chiefs' resume so far this season, on top of the fact that they're the reigning Super Bowl champions, they've beaten 2 of the teams in Prisco's top 8. I think they've had a harder slate so far, and it comes down to me. The Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, and the Steelers don't, and that's going to put them ahead for me. If the Steelers go in and beat the Ravens this week, then maybe I can change my opinion, but it's hard for me to go off from the Chiefs at number 1 right now.
Next.
Higher or lower?
The Chiefs are number 2. The Ravens are number 3 in Pete Prisco's power poll in advance of that first Ravens-Steelers matchup of 2020. Takes us to number 4 and the Seattle Seahawks at 5-1. First loss of the year at the hands of the Arizona Cardinals. Should they be higher, lower, or are they just right, Beau Bishop?
They're worser, and they're my pick in the NFC to win to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC, but they've got real problems in their defense in that they can't stop people. And I thought that maybe there was something they could figure out in the bye week to get it sorted out. They didn't. You're up 2 scores with 2 minutes. You ought to be able to win that game. And they could not stop Kyler Murray with no timeouts from going straight down the field and scoring. So they're worser. I think Tampa Bay's better right now. I think Green Bay's better right now. And then it starts to get interesting. It's interesting, though. I have more questions about the Ravens offense, or as many almost as I do about the Seahawks defense. So I'd probably move both Tampa Bay and Green Bay up, Ravens down, Seahawks down.
Gribble.
Yeah, I feel almost the same way with Beau, because I was initially going to say that they should be higher because I think I like the Seahawks better than the Ravens, but there's just too many teams below the Seahawks that I like better than the Seahawks. So I'll go lower for right now. And the stat that blew me away, and I was passing this along to some of my friends that were bemoaning our own Browns defense. The Seahawks are giving up almost 100 more yards per game than the Browns right now. I mean, that's a huge number. And it's as good of a quarterback as Russell Wilson is, and he's arguably among the best I'd want with the ball in the hands with 2 minutes to go. Those are numbers that are going to be tough to overcome. Still, they're going to be a problem all the way to the end of the season, so they're not too bad right now.
Boy, oh boy, how things have changed in a week. I mean, I would have thought this was SSD's version of better or worse or sweet spot a week ago. Oh, they're number one. And then there's just a little voice over there. What about the defense? What about that defense? Aren't you concerned?
Wasn't that 2 weeks ago?
Now we're throwing them down. It's been consistent. Maybe it's 2 weeks ago and last week. And all of a sudden, turning their back. What's happened to loyalty in this world? Very sad. Very sad to see.
All right.
Did you have an answer?
Yeah, you didn't answer.
Lower. They can't
Which
be.
one?
Tom Terrific's going to score 90 on them. You get a chalupa. You get a burrito. You get a taco. Quesadilla.
Next.
Higher or lower?
All right, Tampa Bay, number 5. Number 6 is Green Bay. That brings us to number 7. And the first loss of the year for the Tennessee Titans at the hand of those Pittsburgh Steelers. Third game in 13 days. Should they be higher, lower, or are they just right? Gribble, we'll start with you.
I think they're just right. I have a hard time arguing with them better than the 6 teams above them, and I think that they're clearly better than the Bills, who are number 8. So Titans come in just right at number 7. They were due for a loss like the one they had against the Steelers. They get a nice pick-me-up this week with Cincinnati.
Zegura.
They are better than this. The defense, yes, it is struggling a little bit, but it's still better than some of the other defenses out there. I would bump them and the Bucs up above the Seahawks. The Packers, Seahawks, that's an interesting one to me, but I do think that the Titans are better. I think it's a pretty AFC-heavy top 5, folks. I think 4 of the top 5 teams in the NFL right now are in the AFC.
Bishop.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I feel better about where they are right now than even the Ravens. And yet, I don't know, like them against Seattle would be a heck of a game in terms of just them trying to stop all of Seattle's weapons. And that might just be who has it. I tend to go who has it last. I tend to go with Gribbs on this. I think you have it in the sweet spot here at number 7. But I would have Baltimore further down than I think Baltimore's a little overvalued here. There are issues with them offensively. They are not running the football the way they did a year ago, and it's affecting a lot of what they're doing, and I think he's got them a little overvalued. Their defense will be much improved with Ngakoue. Obviously, they get home with 4, but I think it really centers more around that he has Baltimore, in my view, a little overvalued.
Next.
Higher or lower?
Our Cleveland Browns come in at number 9. Gentlemen, can I interest you in a top 10 ranking? The Bills just in front of us at number 8. The Rams just behind us at number 10. Are the Browns higher, lower, or are they just right, Zegura?
I love to see us in the top 10. How fun is that? 5-2, top 10 team in the National Football League. It is beautiful. We are going to have to do our work to earn it. And that first test comes up with against the number 17, which I think is a little low for the Las Vegas Raiders. So I'll say right now, sweet spot. But we've got to do our job to stay there. There are issues with this team. There are. But our stars are shining bright on both sides of the ball. We've got a great offensive line, which can cover up a lot of issues for you. And we need our quarterback to prove that what we saw last week, you can't expect him to be that good every week, but that more directionally speaking, he's there than he was the 6 quarters or 7 quarters prior to that 3-quarter breakout.
Beau.
Yeah, I think the 3 teams directly behind us would probably all be favored over us if we played them. In the Rams, the Cardinals, and the Saints, that all three would be favored against us in a game
neutral
right now. We're really banged up. And that can't be. We don't have Chubb, we don't have Hoop, we don't have Teller, lost Beckham. We're really banged up right now. That being said, I think we're better right now than the Bills are. So it's more an issue with some of Pete's placing. I think the Rams and the Cardinals probably ought to come up, and then us, and then the Bills is probably the way I would have it. So I'll go slightly worser, but not much.
Gribble.
Yeah, I agree with Beau because I was going to say that the Browns should be higher because I think the Browns are just playing better football than the Bills right now. And I think that and the Browns are doing it in the face of these injuries with a number of these guys who are going to eventually be back. But who would have pegged at this point of the season that the two teams from the 2018 NFC Championship, the Rams and the Saints, are behind the Browns in the rankings? I mean, let's just soak that in for a minute. But I agree, though. If this had been rearranged with the Rams, Cardinals, and Saints above the Browns, I probably wouldn't have thought it that much. But it's the Bills that got me a little triggered on this list.
Next.
Higher or lower?
Arizona, we've touched on already here in our little round table. We think that they should be a little bit higher than what they are. That takes us to the 49ers. Number 15 at 4-3. Should they be higher, lower, or are they just right? Bishop, floor yours.
How many injuries can one team withstand? Wilson out now. Samuel out now. Everybody else they've already lost to this point. And yet, Nate, never underestimate the heart of a champion. Niners rule. We beat anybody anywhere. Do what we want. Give me coffee, Nate Spumoni. Sweet spot. Actually, they're better than the Bears. One up. Betterer.
Gribble.
Maybe two.
Yeah, I've got
the
them
Colts too.
moving up because I just value the coaching job that they're doing there, and I like them better than the Bears and the Colts right now. I just think that they're going to not win in very pretty fashion the rest of the way, but I like their chances. Is there a glimmer of hope for the NFC West to get all four of their teams in the playoffs? Because that's the direction that we could be heading
to. Nate, last night I talked to you on the phone. You said you were making fun of me on the show, saying that every time you told me what to do with the Niners, you got it wrong and blaming me. Nate, just do the right thing now. Okay, Dad, fine, I will. They're definitely better. They're better. They're going to beat the Bears. They're going to beat the Colts. And I think they're going to give, they just beat the Rams soundly 2 weeks ago. And here they are, 15, Rams at 10. Better. That's a good value.
All right, real quick, one final one.
Higher or lower?
Gribble, we will start with you. The Patriots, ranked 20th at 2-4. Are they better, worse, or just right? Or higher, lower, or just right? Because I totally got confused there. Damn it, I hate you guys.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Just did it.
Yes!
Higher, lower, or just right, Gribble?
I would say right now that they're in the sweet spot, which is just not good for the Patriots. So I still can't rule them out moving forward because I think they'll figure out a way to pick up some wins. They've got a favorable schedule coming up over the next few weeks, but Cam Newton simply can't be worse than he was on Sunday. I mean, that was just – you almost have to throw that one out like the Browns threw out their game against the Steelers. It's just not great. And with the Patriots playing like this, the AFC East is just shaping up to be like the NFC East now. Not very good.
Zegura, real quick.
I don't even need to. You made this segment. I'm going to give it right to Beau Bishop. Don't even need to. You've made my day is made. Who cares what I have to say? What you had to say is all we need. That's all we need.
Same. I would.
Can't believe that just happened.
What a victory! What an incredible victory!
The best. What a moment.
Ribs, great talking to you, buddy.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
All right, and remember, Sir Andrew and all other guests who appear on Cleveland Browns Daily do so via the Fifth Third Money Line. Fifth Third Bank making Cleveland Browns Daily a Fifth Third better. Take a deep dive on our defense. Then Pat Kerwin at the bottom of the hour. Cleveland Browns Daily 850 ESPN Cleveland. Brilliant Electric Sign Company, Northeast Ohio's largest full-service sign company, serving their clients for over 91 years. Contact the experts at Brilliant Electric Sign to provide you a state-of-the-art signage solution. It's going to grow your business. Visit them at brilliantsign.com. All right, we did this earlier in the show, Z, in terms of some of the little details that we may have missed on the defensive side of the ball. Spent a lot of time talking about offense yesterday. Spent a lot of time talking about Myles Garrett, the game wrecker. Also spent some time talking about Denzel Ward and some of the plays he made, but there were even more than you realize, as we've seen over the last couple of days as some of the films cut out. He was elite. Denzel Ward was elite Sunday.
He was elite, and I tweeted out the video, the slide under the block and then make a pop-up slide under a block and then you make a tackle is just outrageous is what it is.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Never seen it. No, same. Not seen it. Unbelievable performance by Denzel Ward. He was great in this one. You know, he continues to be – we're waiting for him to kind of get to the Ramsey level, but I feel like you see his confidence and his demeanor with some of these, the incompletes that you're seeing him grow, I believe, into, you know, what you're looking for in terms of a mega star. I would say Denzel, incredible, some real highlights there. Another thing that I would note, Ronnie Harrison is great.
Yep.
Ronnie Harrison right now is Pro Football Focus's number 2 graded safety in the NFL, period. Number 3 coverage safety in the NFL, period.
Yeah. If you think about Denzel, Harrison, a healthy Delpit, I mean, keep in mind we still have Greedy Williams on this team.
Yep.
At some point coming back. Money, Kevin Johnson. Now we're talking. That'll be a year from now. But to be able to get Ronnie Harrison for nothing, what, a 5? A 5?
5. 2 more
and
years
all he
on his
does in
rookie
every
deal.
game is make plays. And I think if not for the, he was learning the offense early, but once you get past just kind of trying to swim early on, he is just around the ball consistently.
Always.
Consistently.
And
he's going to be a really solid part of this team going forward. You can see it.
if there's one silver lining in the Delpit injury, is that I don't know if Ronnie Harrison's a Brown without it. And I personally, and I'm not jumping into 2021 season, 2022, but I'm excited to see Joe Woods have that tandem together for a while. But again, that's in the future. And this game, Ronnie Harrison's great. Sheldon Richardson continues to play at a very high level. Just around the ball, great against the run, dominant up front. I thought Jordan Elliott, he got 16 snaps in this one. That's up for him. I thought he played a very nice game. You saw him start to break through, get some pressures, make some stops at the line of scrimmage. So I liked it. The guys that we need to get a little bit more from right now are Olivier Vernon, Adrian Claiborne. Claiborne only 25 snaps, but 20 pass rush snaps, no pressures. Vernon was credited with 3 pressures on his 44 pass rush snaps. Hasn't gotten home yet. He's getting there, but we just need somebody else to break through. We need another breakthrough on this line opposite him. Larry Ogunjobi, we talked about. He saw 32 pass rush snaps this game. That's a season high for him. 2 pressures. Again, we just need somebody to get home. It's getting there. Myles is dominant. Every team, every week that you play, you as a non-Myles Garrett defensive lineman on this team are going to get a ton of opportunities to get to the quarterback to win one-on-one matchups. And I think that is the next evolution. Money Mitch didn't have his best game. It wasn't nearly as bad as it seemed because they made a couple very good back shoulder throws and catches. A.J. Green, that's a tough play to stop. The dropped interception obviously will haunt him. And at the time it could have put the game in jeopardy because that could have won the game had he made that catch. So I would say, corner-wise, you're good. Kevin Johnson on the blitzing did a good job. Sendejo, again, still, I feel like he's struggling. I feel like he's great against the run. He's great at coming up and run support and physical. And I wonder if at some point they say, let's move him closer to the line and let's let Harrison play more on the back end in space, or if they end up getting Carl Joseph back in the mix along with Harrison. I don't know what that safety room looks like. The only thing I know, or that I think I know, is that I don't want to see Ronnie Harrison come off the field.
Yes, stay on always. Yeah, that's kind of it. I have nothing to back this up from a statistical standpoint. I haven't even looked into it. It felt like this was Mac's best game back. It felt like he was around the ball more active. You saw the 51 bouncing around. I don't know that if it was, but just from – and I haven't paid attention to the All-22 in terms of watching defense to see where he was in every play, but it felt like I saw the 51 a lot more in this game than I had in any previous game this season.
I think he looked more athletic to me. It looked like he was getting closer to 100%. He had the one on the sideline that he's got to make that tackle where he didn't even wrap because he thought the tackle was going to be made. So I think he's getting better. I still think that the next evolution for Mac is now that you don't have to think about your leg, get back dialed into what's going on. I didn't think it was a great game for our linebackers, any of them. I thought Taki played pretty well in run support, but I thought Goodson had a little bit of a rough game. I thought Malcolm Smith even had a little bit of a rough game. And so that's a position that, maybe now we have the opportunity to put Carl Joseph in as a dime backer going forward. I think we're going to need to look into some evolutions. And I will say Jacob Phillips has always shown very, very well when he's been on the field. And I think he's a guy that, as the season progresses and he gets healthy and gets back, might end up playing more. But I agree. I thought Mac was flying around more than we had seen him. Now it's about controlling that flying and utilizing it for good defensive and sound defensive football.
Absolutely. Rumpke Waste and Recycling, family-owned and operated since 1932. They've been in business 87 years, keeping neighborhoods clean and green. The customers, employees, and communities are all part of the family. Visit Rumpke.com to learn more. We're going to get smarter next. Our old buddy Pat Kerwin going to join us. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. This is always a real treat for us as we head out on the Fifth Third Money Line and joined by our great friend Pat Kerwin, host of SiriusXM's Moving the Change. It's time to get smarter, kids. Pat, thank you so much for taking the time. Let's just start with how we've gotten smarter, and that is with our head coach and Kevin Stefanski. Nathan and I marvel at what he is drawing up every single week to take advantage of some of the stuff that their defense is giving and his proactive approach to play calling. What are you seeing from Kevin Stefanski early on in his first year as a head coach here in Cleveland?
Well, Glenn, thanks for having me. Nothing surprises me about how well Kevin's doing. I've known him for a long time. He was my son's roommate in college for 4 years, and they played football together, so I saw him all the time when I was down there. And I could tell he was going to be something special in sports, and he's a smart guy. So then he got well-trained, and he coached a lot of different positions. I mean, a lot of guys would hope that they got all the training he got, quarterbacks, tight ends, running backs. It was never too big for him, and he's taken all that knowledge to, and I think that's really helped him with the play calling. He understands. He was smart enough to go out and get a great line coach in Billy Callahan, and I think we all know that. But I think one of the great things he's doing now, and he's kind of kept everyone interested. Look, he wanted to be a good running team, and he had two high-profile receivers, and he figured out ways to keep them rolling, whether it was reverses, passing, things that kept them in the middle of this thing while he wasn't ready to go throw the ball 40 times unless he had to. So very clever in that sense, a great communicator, and I think all that has come back to help him. And for you guys, it must be a great, I won't call it a sigh of relief, but you got a great coach and you know it.
It is a sigh of relief. It's a wonderful
sigh
thing.
Relief is fine.
And listen, we felt like we were on the path not only from our ability, to talk with Coach Stefanski directly, but when you told us at the Combine, when we got a chance to talk to you this year, and actually probably the last mass public gathering I was a part of, certainly, which is crazy when you think about how much the world has changed since that Combine, but you told us why and laid out very clearly why he would be successful. Now we're getting to see this on a day-in, day-out basis. And, Pat, when you see a first-year head coach who is able to overcome injuries, have guys that were healthy and actives early in the season, and then step in and be the ones who caught all 4 passes on the game-winning drive in Week 7, including a rookie, isn't that culture, isn't that buy-in, and does that tell you as an outside observer that his message, his brand is working and is reaching this team and these players?
Yeah, and I think what he's reaching literally is all 53, and then obviously when you have to bring guys up in the practice squad and everything else, what always impresses me, and I think last week was a great example. So Beckham goes down basically on the first play, and here comes the backups, and look at the guys who caught the touchdowns. I'm a big fan of Harrison Bryant. I've talked to Kevin about him. I had him at the Senior Bowl for a week. I could see that guy's skills. But so you lose a tight end, and in comes the second tight end. You have to go to the third tight end. He can play. You got to go back to Rashad Higgins because, I saw Higgins since Beckham got there. Higgins was only targeted 16 times since the arrival of Odell. So there he was, ready to go, and Peoples and everybody else. It always tells me a couple things. One, they're coaching everybody. Yep. And two, the system is comprehensible if you're not getting a lot of reps. And then Ernest Johnson, when you needed Ernest steps in. So I think that's where I evaluate a coach. Sometimes the starters are all prepared and no one else is. The starter goes down and it's like it's a house of cards and it falls apart. What's pretty clear to me with you guys is, especially in the offensive skill spots, you're seeing guys step up and ready to go. And not just go out there and kind of do it. They've got to go out there and excel. So I think it says a lot to the system Kevin and his assistants have put in. But I also say, Kevin, here's the hardest job he had first year. He's never done it before. Yep. He's got natural leadership, but he's got to evaluate coaching staff guys, hire the right guys. And I've talked to Billy Callahan. Billy is former head coach himself, very impressed with Kevin's ability to see the big picture, be a head coach. I felt that way when Pete Carroll and I were together. I could tell in my mind, now Mr. Hess didn't see it that way at the Jets, but I could see that Pete was going to be a terrific head coach, and he was dying to be great at it and accepting all kinds of advice. I think Kevin has been building his resume for this opportunity for a long time, and And I think he's more than ready in a lot of different directions. So, and Kevin, nothing rattles Kevin, as you guys probably know. His sideline demeanor never portrays anger. It doesn't portray fear. It doesn't portray confusion. He's pretty cool dude on the sideline. And I think for the players, this is what players used to say to me all the time. I'm not evaluating this head coach. I work for 5 head coaches. I'm not evaluating this guy till halftime of a losing game. Then I'm going to find out if he's any good. And I think your players have figured out Kevin's pretty good.
Pat, the other thing that's really interesting that Kevin has to do here, and you mentioned, I thought it was a really incredible point about how the system is one that's accessible to everybody for people to just come in and be able to run it. So that's critical. He did it without a traditional offseason, obviously, which is amazing. But he also has a little bit of a quarterback rehabilitation on his hands here in the sense that Baker Mayfield's second year did not go the way any of us here in the organization would want. And the performance that Baker put together Sunday in Cincinnati, basically not missing on a pass except for a spike as he finished the game, and just all of a sudden it seems like it clicked a little bit for him. That was a big part of this as well. The way that he's approaching Baker and getting him into this offense, Baker's third offense, fourth guy calling plays, it's a lot to take in, but that's another part of this job that was big, and he's doing a nice job of that as well.
Yeah, so first off, Kevin has patience. He understands it's going to take time, especially at the hardest position in pro sports, quarterback. He sees enough there. He didn't panic. Like, he understands. I've never talked about this, but he knows the reality of being in Cleveland. It's easy to hit the panic button and go, here we go again. And that's the fans, the media, everybody. The fans are extremely loyal in one sense, but I get a lot of Browns callers on my shows. And, the second Baker didn't play well, though, we got to get rid of him. Kevin didn't see it that way. Kevin was working his way through the things that had to be better. And I thought his remarks last week on purpose of, hey, Baker's had a great week. Now, he didn't have to say that, but he said it. I think he said it more for Baker to feel like, I'm with you, man. Don't worry about it. We're going to figure this out. And so I think Kev has done a good job of getting Baker on course and moving him forward. And I think Baker has enough skills to be a very good quarterback. But you know what it's like to be the coach or the quarterback in Cleveland? They pretty much decide, I'll give you one chance at this, and then I'll try to get you out of here.
It can be a challenge, and Baker certainly, when it looked like he might have been on the ropes after that 0-5 start, answered that challenge, and now the Browns sit here at 5-2. And Pat, I want to pick your brain and have you put back on, your front office cap here for a second, because this is an interesting trade deadline. Beau and I were talking about this earlier, perhaps for a lot of reasons. Number one, there's probably going to be some contracting of the salary cap next year as a result of this pandemic. You have teams, I think, you have a lot of teams. You have the haves and have-nots. There are, I think, 10 teams with one win or less at this point in the season, a high number that could be out of it. Do you expect this to be a season where perhaps this trade deadline is a little bit more active and teams maybe go the NBA route to either tank a little bit or try to get up there for Trevor Lawrence, getting that sweepstakes, or also to just divest of maybe expiring big contracts, get an asset for it when you're not trying to compete anymore?
Yeah, well, I think so. I think the cap is going to go down a lot more than a little. It's going to be severe, and severe enough. And they always say 175 is the floor. If it did that, you got to remember we're at 200, and for multiple years we were going up around 10% a year, and a lot of cap guys and even the agents are figuring that it's going to go up 10. So when they were writing contracts a year or two ago, no one saw this coming, and so now people are going to get stuck. So what's the profile? You're right. It's the team with 2 wins or less. It's a team with a veteran in the last year of his contract that you're not going to have the opportunity to re-sign for cap reasons. And I might as well get what I can right now. So I think there's a couple teams that are going to do that. Now, we've already seen a couple already, obviously. We'll see a couple more, I believe, by Tuesday. I've always thought that the trade deadline should be Thanksgiving, but no one's. I can't be greedy. They finally moved it up a few weeks, but it should be to Thanksgiving. And it used to be, I remember the first time we were constructing the first cap. It's like, well, we don't want teams having fire sales. Well, fire sales are okay. We have a salary cap, and it's hard to manage, Go look at the guys that are not supposed to have any cap space next year that are bad teams. And they're all looking at what the Dolphins did. The Dolphins were giving away good players for draft picks, and it appears, and it's too early to tell, but it appears like they're going to do okay with the young guys that they're putting on the roster, and they're going to be able to handle the cap problems because all these youngsters aren't making a lot of money. So, yes, you're going to see it. I don't know why Cincinnati hasn't moved the defensive tackle in the end, Gino and Dunlap. Maybe they will the next day or so. But I also think there's still a couple guys out there, like Clay Matthews, that could come in and help a team fairly quickly. Eric Reed come in. I got asked this morning, how long would it take? I said Clay Matthews could be ready in 2 weeks. It's pretty simple there. But I do think you'll see some action here because the guys at the top are loading up.
Yep.
Look around. You feel like, Baltimore's gone out and got Ngakoue, and whether Des Bryant can play or not, at least they went out and got him. So people are starting to beef it up on the top end of this, Antonio Brown, et cetera. So I do think you'll see some more action, and I think that's a good thing. It's good for the league. It's certainly good for fans. They love all that stuff.
Pat, there's some like 7 or 8 teams that have 1 win or fewer. And we talked about the bottom and the race to the bottom. We've never there's a change in philosophy, isn't there, that's happened in the National Football League? Are we watching it where you used to see? I mean, this tanking is something that's happened in the NBA rather for a long time for draft picks. It's something that's been part of it. But are we seeing a shift from the NFL perspective here?
Well, I don't think they're tanking to the point of, let's try to lose. I don't think that. I think the stress of where the salary cap is going is a reality check.
Okay.
And I think I don't think it's going to be something that's every year now. And that would be a trend to me. To me, there's only one Trevor Lawrence, so we can cut to the chase on that. There's not 2 of them. And I think, guys are going to think that they get good value picks in the middle of the first round and everything else. So I think they're doing it because they know they can't put a team together financially next year. And if your owner has $100 million for signing bonus, you start converting salary to signing bonus. You can keep a lot of guys, but you're pushing out. It's like credit card, and you're just going to be pushing out to another time. But it is a phenomenon for this year. But once we get back on course, I don't think you'll see it because football, it's just harder to integrate new players into your system. It's not like baseball. You can sign a guy today and put him in right field, and he knows what he's doing. And basketball is not as that simple as that, but football is complicated. But I do think there are guys that are going to get moved, and I think it's really because of the cap.
Pat, you're the best.
The best.
Thank you so much for your time and making us smarter today. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Good luck this week. Get those Raiders. Come on, now this is a battle for a playoff spot, in my opinion. You guys and the Raiders.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun game. Old school AFC. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks, Pat.
Yes, be good.
All right, that is Pat Kerwin, one of the best. He's the host of Sirius XM's Moving the Chains. He called in on the Fifth Third Money Line. A reminder, all guests who appear on CBD do so via the Fifth Third Money Line, Fifth Third Bank, making Cleveland Browns Daily a Fifth Third better.
Brava, Gibby.
So much more.
Brava. So much more.
Oh,
God.
So much more to come.
Cornucopia.
It's just copious. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Nominations for the 2020 Helmets program are now being accepted. Zenith invites you to nominate your Ohio high school to receive $25K worth of new Zenith helmets. Visit promotions.clevelandbrowns.com to learn more. Game 6 of the World Series tonight. Dodgers can clinch it. First time since '88 for the Los Angeles Dodgers to try to get a championship.
Listen, you're gonna rouse the ire of not Pedro. Keep bringing up that one.
Oh, he's not fond of 88?
No, we were.
Which one's more painful? Which one's more painful? That one or the Lutz getting swept by the Reds?
88, because Eckersley was unhittable, and like that was out of a Hollywood movie what happened, and then it decimated. 88 was cool though too, because I got to see the McGuire walk-off, which was Game 3, the only game they won. Mm-hmm. You win 89. And then 9, you go 3 straight World Series. None of them are competitive, by the way. It was 4-1 Dodgers, sweep Giants, sweep by the Reds. The Reds were the nasty boys. Hatcher hit, I want to say, 612 or something absurd in that series and set the record.
Didn't Eric Davis hit in the first inning, hit it out of Cincinnati?
He probably did, Eric the Red. So good.
He did.
The Dodgers one hurt because you were set to win Game 1. Once Eck got the ball, that game was over. I mean, that's how good he was that year.
He wasn't the MVP of the league that year?
Yes.
Yeah, and you were significantly better than that Dodgers team.
Oh my God.
Significantly.
Yes.
Honestly, that Dodgers team, it gets lost because of Kirk Gibson, but is really, it's one of the worst World Series champions of my life in terms of their overall talent.
Great.
And the A's were unbelievable. The A's, it's interesting with the A's because another team that's probably similar to that is like the Braves, where you have the best team for a period of time, but you only win one, and you're happy to win the one, but you feel like, God, we should have won so many more. They have a little bit of a Chicago Bears, 85 Bears feel to them, the A's do. Like they were so dominant, but only got the one, and I think the Bears feel that same way. Like, how did we only win one Super Bowl with that defense and that talent? And the Braves felt like that a little bit later. Like, wait a second, just one?
It's wild. And I'll tell you, for my money, 1988, 89, 1990, Dave Stewart was the best big money stud pitcher in baseball, period.
I don't think anyone who remembers that would argue with you.
But you never hear his name brought up.
No, it's similar to Jack Morris at that time, who was great with the Blue Jays and the Twins in those World Series, where if he was on the hill, it was done, man. Like he would go 10 innings.
Stewart
he'd go 9-10 innings.
Stewart
would stay in there.
4 straight 20-win seasons. In 88, 14 complete games. 89, 8 complete games. 90, 11 complete games. Like, nobody does that anymore. And the 14 and 11 led the NFL. In 90, he had 11 complete games. 4 of them were complete game shutouts.
Didn't Bob Welch have like a
27 and 6? 27 and 6. Our fifth starter in 90, the fifth starter was Storm Davis, and he went like 19 and 11.
Former Oriole.
So I wasn't even a fan of them.
Oh, yeah.
1 minute.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't even a fan. Steinbach at catcher, McGuire, Phillips, Weiss, Lansford, Henderson, Parker's the DH. Who am I missing?
What?
Ricky. Canseco.
Yes, the hoser.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That was the squad. Dude.
Yeah. And I wasn't even an A's fan, but that's how great that crew was.
Time.
A lot like the 95, the Indians in the 90s.
I mean, that lineup top to bottom was absurd.
30.
Yeah. Well, didn't Manny bat 6th or 7th
here?
Oh,
my goodness. Yeah.
Yes. He and Tomey.
Jeez. Yeah. Yeah. Wild. All right. Tomorrow we will turn our attention to the Oakland Raiders. Las Vegas Raiders. We will turn our attention to them. That's going to be a fun one. Going to be a fun uniform matchup as well. You have the next level coming up next. We're back tomorrow. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.